Happy Sunday, everybody. My name is Scott Mendenhall. So excited to be here with all of you. Boy, do we have some special guests. They're special people. I don't know if we're going to call them guests because they're regulars. They're always here, but not in person. So we're excited to introduce them in a little bit. But we have the one and only, formerly known as Lily Weiner, now turned Lily Arnold.
Hello.
In the studio. How you doing, Lil?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Reigning champ of Unlock Summer Camp for high school, middle school, the challenge.
Let's go.
Two in a row,
I
Lily.
just need some hardware on my desk for those.
You do?
Camps, no. It's not my win. It's the team's win.
Oh, but you and your husband were
leading? I would
leading?
take the hardware on my desk. Yeah, we were leading the camp. We took our team to victory, but it was a fight.
Yeah, out of all your trophies that you have over there, I would have to say that one you actually earned. Those other two, I really had a lot to do in those trophies. I'm the unsung hero in those trophies that sit on your desk. But this win this past week, you and your husband can claim the victory.
Yeah, it was great. It was so good.
We'll talk about a little bit about that a little bit more. We got a great team back at the table today. You can't see him, but we got Legend back there. We got Parker all the way to Tampa, Florida. He's over there. And then we got Steven in the house as well, so that's pretty cool. But let me introduce, actually we got to get Dwayne in here too because he's all the way down in Mississippi. And the only way we can communicate to Dwayne is to have headphones on. Dwayne, how are we doing this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. Doing good.
Yeah. For those that watched last week, Dwayne's hair was getting long, and I talked about, hey, Dwayne, what you going to do with your hair? He's like, oh, I think I might grow it out. That lasted only a couple more days.
No, I think the interaction was, your hair is getting long, but you're going to cut it. It's like, yeah, probably so. And I
probably
did.
So. You did, yeah. Like, especially living in Tampa, living down in Mississippi, how would you not cut that? Way too hot.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Here in Minnesota, we're going to get your weather for 3 days. You can keep it, man. Stop sending it this way.
Yeah. It's tough. I think the heat index is already in the 90s already out there today. So
no, thank you. You can, but we'll have it. We'll think of you and probably think bad things about your state. Just so you know, prepare your heart for that. But it's so good to have you in the house all the way from Mississippi. He is wearing a purple shirt, and that is not for the Vikings. However, he's a Vikings fan. I don't know how you own a purple shirt that doesn't have any Viking logo on it. I'm confused. Can you explain?
It's kind of like the Clark Kent and Superman. Like, you know, there's the Viking logo there. It's on the heart.
Okay, I like
it's covered up.
I like it. All right, and then Dwayne is pretty exciting. We love it when you come visit us in studio. Today we have really some special human beings that have been here all week, help run camp. One of them helped cook meat and vegetables and potatoes. They were in the kitchen. And then we had the other one who was teamed up with me that watched shenanigans happen and be a part of camp. They are all the way from the Sunshine State. The man that we're about to introduce, he is a fan of everything Tampa, Florida. Hockey, football, baseball. Lily's giving the symbol. She's communicating to me in sign language. I'm not sure why she's doing that. But like, I'm going to ask her, what is the baseball team there that is in Tampa? But while she figures that one out, let me introduce Dan and Jen live in the studio today. How we doing, guys?
What's happening, everybody?
Well, they've not been on the microphone, and like when you say those things, like what's happening, and then you just it's like
what's happening.
You gotta wait for us to talk. Good to have you guys in the studio.
It's good to see them.
How has your time been in Minnesota?
It's been awesome. I mean, watching these kids grow this week, spending so much time with all the church family that we've only connected with digitally, so seeing a bunch of people, giving a bunch of hugs, and it's been amazing. Great week.
Yeah, it's been great.
Jen, how are you doing?
Good.
Are you nervous to be on camera on the microphone a little bit?
I mean, it doesn't feel like I'm really
on camera.
Yeah, because, I know all you guys.
You know all of us. It's just bright lights on you.
Just friends hanging out. Yeah.
Hanging out in a garage.
Hanging out.
I mean, if you guys could
Drinking
see, I just pulled my
coffee.
headphones out, and so then I can't hear. If you don't follow me on Instagram,
Why?
yeah, why?
Just kidding.
I posted this week the new a video of the new studio that just was dropped off this week. Now it has a lot of work that has to be done, but we're pretty excited about getting out of this space because it is a garage, and this is the only place we can store so many things. So we're staring at boxes of heaters. It's not. Dan and Jen, what is your thoughts as you sit in here and you look at what we look at while we pretend to be looking at you? Way different than you thought, or is this what you're picturing?
Oh, no, for sure. This is way different. Stuff everywhere. It's like your kid's bedroom just exploded.
It did. Oh, man. And sometimes it revolves. Last week, this stuff wasn't in here. We had other stuff in here. Like tomorrow, this will all be moved out, and something new will be put in here. It's just how it goes. But we pretend like we are in a professional studio. Lily, what is the baseball team that is in Tampa?
It's the Royals, but the
Wrong.
studio.
But
Oh, it's
confident.
wrong?
She said it so
Wrong.
confidently.
Oh,
So
you
confident,
led
so
me
confident.
astray.
Who's hit they?
Oh, Parker said the Royals, so I listened.
Wait,
to
did
him.
you wait?
I was
did-
like, I heard you. Now I'm
No,
gonna
wait.
cheat.
Did you hear or did you read his lips? Because
I heard him say Royals.
or did you?
I heard you say Royals.
Why would he say
Close.
Royals? It does start with an R.
I
Yes.
literally heard you say
No.
Royals.
And ends with an S, yes.
The rings.
The rings.
Oh.
Yes, there's a. Yes. There-
The Reds.
Tampa
I can't
Rings.
read lips like that, Parker. Even when you talk slower, I can't.
Okay, for all those that don't know, Dan, what is the baseball team?
It is the Rays.
Oh, Rays. Tampa Bay Rays.
Yes. Formerly
Like the
the
Sun
Devil
Ray?
Rays, yes.
Yeah. Why did they change from the Devil Rays just to the Rays?
I don't know.
Okay.
Conflict of interest.
Probably.
I don't even know.
They were so bad before.
Oh!
You
Oh,
can't
my
even
goodness.
see his face. You can't even see his face.
I
It's
love
just
when
scary.
Dwayne does that. Dwayne's been hanging on to that one for a while. He's back there going because they were that. But here's the problem for the old state of Mississippi. You don't even have a baseball
yeah.
team. Why?
No. We have the single A of the Atlanta Braves. Yeah, I think that's it.
So,
We have a
but
hockey team.
Mississippi has a professional
We have
hockey team?
It's like a low.
Yeah. So you have all the
level
farm teams.
professional- Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. That makes sense. For those that are confused, you're like, what kind of YouTube channel is this? It is not a sports, as you can tell, this is not a sports channel because we don't know anything of what we're talking about. We're here to make your life better and make you better at life. We're going to talk a lot about how to do that through a relationship with Jesus. And so we're excited about doing those things. But we do like to catch up with each other and see how everybody's doing. Lily's 3 weeks into being married now. Is that right?
Almost 4. 7. Yeah, 3.
3, almost 4, like on Friday.
Yeah,
You're
on Friday.
closer to 3 than you are.
You're right.
You're like my kids who I'm almost the next age. And
I'm
their
not
birthday
like
was
really
yesterday.
counting the weeks. I'm not really counting the weeks. I'm looking at month, maybe. I don't know.
Well, great news.
I'm not really looking at the days, actually.
Great news.
It's a
You're
long time.
like 6 days away from being 1 month.
Cool.
So then you'll say 1 month.
Okay.
And how's it going?
It's going good. Yeah, it's going great.
That's it? That's all? You're not going to expound on that?
I don't. What do you want to know? It's going great. We got to lead camp together this week.
There we go.
It was
Some
a lot
facts.
of early mornings and early nights because we were tired. We washed our sheets yesterday. Jordan went to bed really dirty on Friday night because we were swimming in the lake and he decided not to shower. And I was like, that's gross.
Wait, so
He washed the sheets.
so is that like a no-go for you?
No, it wasn't a no-go. I was just
Like, were you like, then tomorrow we got to wash the sheets?
No, it was all him. He was like, I'll wash the sheets tomorrow. I go to bed dirty all the time, but I showered because I was in the muck and it was gross
Why were you in the muck?
because it just went faster that way. We had taken our teams out on the lake on these, like, what are they? I don't know.
Rafts.
8 foot,
Sure.
10-foot rafts.
It's like the size of a bed, a full-size bed,
A little bigger.
bigger, maybe a queen.
Yeah, it's like a lily pad kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're more solid than a lily pad.
Yes.
So anyways, got our whole team on there. And just like the transition of getting them on and off the dock, there's all this muck around the dock. And it was taking too long to get the raft to the dock. So I got in the muck to pull it. And I was gross.
And I missed it.
It was really dirty.
It's not really.
I
it's
didn't
just-
make a scene out of it because we needed to move.
Do you think though, like when you say it's dirty and stuff,
I mean, it's natural.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just like it's underwater.
It's literally a mud bath.
Yeah, people pay good money for that. You got it for free. You're
Thank
welcome.
And then you decided to climb into bed like that?
No,
Jordan did.
Jordan did, but I don't think he went in the muck. But anyways,
I didn't shower that night either. I figured I was in the lake. Why do I need a shower? Just go right to bed.
I mean, it was a great week. It really was.
I figured I'm gonna wake up in a couple hours and sweat all over again. So why take the time to shower?
I get it. It's just nice going to bed.
This is a
clean.
revolving conversation, I think, on this
I
YouTube
even
channel. We
showered.
talk about that all the time.
I even showered the night we were here till 1:30 a.m.
I showered that night. We were
Why?
But that one was too long of a day, and I just felt like I'm gonna sleep better for a couple hours.
Even though I'm only gonna get 3-4 hours of sleep, I'll sleep better.
Yeah, I need to
This is the
maximize
rationale.
the quality of my sleep.
Yeah.
How about you, Jen? This week, did you shower every day after cooking in the kitchen?
No.
See,
No, I didn't.
that's 3 for 3 right now.
That's okay.
Yeah, and there were some mornings where I just chose sleep. So.
Yeah, right. That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what kind of week you're having is when you're choosing sleep over sanitation.
For sure.
How about Dan?
Showered every day.
Every day, Dan coming in.
Every night or every morning?
Oh, every night. I
Every
can't climb
night.
into bed dirty. No.
Yeah.
But
But
then
you're okay with Jen climbing into bed dirty with you. Oh, man, the truth comes out.
Yeah, I don't. I'll make a joke to Holly about it only because I know that I get in bed dirty. So then I'll go, oh, what? You're getting in bed dirty? But
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Well, it was an amazing week.
It was.
so
So
great.
for those that are, you call this your home. This is your church, and thank you for all the prayers you did for camp this week. We're gonna put up some pictures, and we're gonna inform Dwayne because Dwayne didn't get a seat either. He wasn't here. So here are some highlight pictures, and later on we'll have a video or so. But here are just some quick snaps of the week. We'll kind of give perspective of what's going on in it. So
That's
you
the
had
Navy SEALs.
two teams. We competed as Army or military teams. Slow down on those pictures so we can explain them. So go back a little bit. And so you have the Navy SEALs and you had the Army Rangers. This is the SEALs. What happened on the last day? What did we do? Why are you standing around a bush?
We planted a tree, and
For your tomorrow.
With that tree, we planted a time capsule that the students all wrote a letter in talking about the week and what God did, and we buried it right next to the tree. It was awesome. A lot of them have never even used a shovel.
Yeah, it was mind blowing
Dug
actually.
a tree, none of it. It was awesome.
I think we only had one student out of 26 that has said they had planted a tree.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But
It
I
was
didn't know
so
that
great.
thing about the shovel. I
Yeah.
did hear some people had to be taught how to use a shovel.
Yeah. It was a learning experience, and we were only given like 45 minutes, and we did it. We got it done.
It was well done. They planted birch trees, which are trees that will turn white bark when they turn like around 3 years old. Okay, so both
Amazing.
teams did that. And then the time capsule is for whoever ends up finding it in 100 years from now or something. Those are the 4 leaders. Lily and Jordan, all in black for Navy SEALs. And then the Army Rangers is to the left. That's Haley and Michaela, Joey's wife, in the pink reddish shorts. And then Haley, our children's director. Explain, Dan, the red rope on Haley. What is that?
That was their carabiner. Carabiner and the rope. I mean, being a rock climber, it's not fully called a carabiner, but it was fun to the kids to kind of hear that phrase from you over and over all week. All right, carabine up.
Yeah.
And they were definitely exhausted from hearing that by the end of the week. Mm-hmm. But it was awesome.
It was hard to travel tied to each other.
Well, no child got left behind then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beauty of that.
It's genius.
But the rumor is that a handful of those students are wearing their carabiners to church today.
Ooh.
So, and yes, Dan is correct. Carabiner was only on the end, but we just all called it a carabiner because what else would you call it?
It made it easy for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and easy for me to just say carabine up.
Yep.
I don't know what else you'd say. Rope up, get your rope and
Yeah,
your
it worked well.
It worked.
clip
well.
in. Nonetheless, that
Clip in, yeah.
was pretty funny. And then we'll progress through some of more of those pictures. Just explain the kind of the week it was. Then they competed in some great competitions throughout the week.
There you are.
That is Monday morning. It was chilly,
That's the dock that we were just talking about, and a paddleboard in front of it.
and my dog who jumped on the.
So what is that legend or key that
Yeah,
you're...
so what we did is one of the games, the students had to run around in the trails, carabined up to each other and race to find the coordinates to the ledger. So,
I never actually saw the sign until I saw the picture.
And so then they had to use
Okay.
binoculars because that was a long ways away. And they had to figure out the numbers to 3 combinations, and we didn't put them in order. And so that I was trying to get that placed.
Such a great game. And that was the way that the team on the first event, acquired their flag. So the flag was combo locked to the flagpole, and that was how they had to. It was just the events were so well thought out. It was amazing.
Yeah, with 3 different locks.
3 different locks, 3 different combinations, 1 student at a time. I think they had like 30 seconds or a minute, Dan.
Something
you were
like
keeping
that,
track of how long they could
Yeah, they had a minute each
hold
time.
the binoculars. It was a lot of the events were like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? It was very exciting.
Yeah, this was their first time even using binoculars. A lot of
Yeah,
them. So
oh
it's
my
like,
gosh. And that's where you start going, okay, you're a teenager and you haven't used binoculars. It's like you just forget these things.
Yeah, learn how to hold your breath, get steady.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And think about it, their first experience on those things are at camp. And I don't remember the first time like I ever used a shovel or I used binoculars, but these students will be like, I was at camp, I learned how to use
For
a
sure,
shovel,
it's memorable.
binoculars,
A leaf blower.
a leaf blower.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
How many of you ever leaf blowed? A handful of hands went up. I go, how many of you learned your first time was at kids camp? The same hands went up.
Yeah.
They don't use them either.
And still haven't used them to leaf blow leaves.
Right?
Yeah,
They've used them to leaf blow other things.
I want to
like
write a
balls
letter
and-
to parents. Dear parents, please share your lawn toys with your children. Because you know somebody's doing leaf blowing at their home, and it just isn't the kids at the
Right.
moment. But yeah, I love that we get have those experiences at camp. I think we got a couple more pictures for you guys just to see through the week. The teams were not picked beforehand. We told them right there that we were going to draw rocks, and so we had painted rocks brown or khaki and black, and you just pulled it out of a bag, and then on 3, 2, 1, you turned your hand around, and bam, you learned who your team was then, and we didn't know who it was going to be on. So it was really cool to watch. It all transpired. And then we did give a chance for people to change teams if they wanted once they looked at each other. No one did it. And then all you heard was murmurs throughout the week. I really thought about doing it, but I didn't. And then we just talked about, well, be a leader. Like, there was no peer pressure not to do it. No one was telling you couldn't. There was no punishment for not, if you wanted to. It was like legitimately if you want to go to the other team.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Absolutely.
And it was 2 teams, man, for sure. It was David and Goliath.
Yeah.
Average age was 13 on one team, 14, but the height ratio was very different when we lined them up. And so overall, great week. Thank you for everybody that partnered with us in whatever capacity that was.
It was
seriously.
great.
And to Dan and Jen, thanks for coming up and helping volunteer in it. I'm sure you had no idea what you're getting into. I'm sure some of the days you're going, does this guy even love children? But it is a lot of fun to be able to push students. We should get Parker and Legend in here to talk about it, but who knows what they would say.
Yeah,
You know,
who knows?
They could talk about.
They would be like, it was easy. I could do it again.
And I'm pretty sure I saw on their
could do
faces
it
several times that it
not
wasn't easy. Not easy.
For sure. It's not easy to work with 13 of your peers who you disagree with.
And that you're tethered to.
And that you're tethered to and that you have to make a decision with.
Was it Parker? Was it you at one point? We did I'm going to say slip and slide, but it's not. It was like, I mean, how would you say it, Danny? Like when I say slip and slide, it does it injustice, right?
No. We connected 3 of those lily pad
Dock
things, whatever you want to call them, together. And to watch the kids go at full speed down these things.
Down the hill.
Oh, man. Down the hill. They were cooking.
And then you had to pick up a penny
Yes.
off of it.
Yes.
And
without knocking other
It was
ones
so
off.
hard.
Yeah, and if you knocked them off, it was 1 billion points taken away for every penny hitting the ground.
Yeah.
And they were cooking. Like,
we were going fast.
because no one was worried about hitting the ground because you're now on this thing's got a little bit of cushion on it. And it is slippery. And it was cool to watch the strategy pick up a penny with their fingers and all the different things. But I think it was Parker that took off running at one point and forgot he was carabined. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot that he was carabined to his team, and he takes off full force. Still connected to his teammates. And ripped about 3 human beings off the
They all
earth.
had smiles on their faces. It was all
After
good.
being cut in half. It was like literally cut in half. somebody's going to do some kind of scan on their body when they're like 40 years old, and they go, why are there these like indentations on your kidney? Oh, well, when I was in high school, my teammate ripped me in half because he took off for a slip and slide. But it was a good time. Actually, I keep saying that. Let's get Dan and Jen, for those that were up until this week in the same spot you've been, connected with us digitally, talk, through chat and stuff. Now you get to see what goes on here, right? You've been on where the church offices are.
Yep.
You see how we do camp and interact with people coming on the property. And so this is the hub for all ministry for Unlocked Church. What was your guys' take that you would say to those, the 100 plus people that are calling this home that are digitally? We get about 25 to 30 to watch on Sunday and then the rest throughout the week. How would you explain to them your experience of a whole seeing Unlocked Church do what we do?
I feel like it was go, go, go all the time. The entire time there was something going on, some sort of fire that's being put out. And I actually asked Dan in the car yesterday, I said, so a lot of us did the mission trip together, and then we came here and did this. And you can see the exhaustion on the kids' faces, the leaders' faces. And I asked, which do you think was harder? The mission trip or camp?
It's
I
tough.
don't know.
It's tough. Although
That's
the days here were longer.
You think?
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
they
it
were.
was.
Oh, that's a hard question because I was on both. I don't know what
Yeah.
I would say.
I would say the brute strength of building the wall at the mission trip, that was pretty tough. But
Yeah, that was tough.
yeah, this was definitely next level. But it was so cool, especially by the end of the week, to tell the kids. And now that we've experienced it for a full week, we will definitely be back.
That's so
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
I
it
love
was
that.
fun to see the community that comes together here. You see a lot on screen and you wonder, or you see it on Facebook and you wonder, is it real? And it's definitely real.
Oh,
yeah.
I love
It-
that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think what's unique for probably a lot of churches in Minnesota, you do have a short amount of time to go. Because then winter hits and it does slow down. The speed here just goes probably 50%. Because once snow falls, people aren't outside as much anymore. It's not as easy to connect. And so you go, and once school starts, there's a new rhythm, right? We talk about that around here a lot, don't we, Lil? That
Yeah.
summers is a little chaotic. And, we went from the missions trip to the kids' camp to this camp, the parade, Lily's wedding. It has been a summer for a lot of us. And so we have another missions team here. As you guys roll off, we just brought in another missions team. And then, knock on wood, right?
Then you'll get some sleep.
Then we'll get some sleep.
Yeah, I think like half of it, more than half of it is like we decide to do this, but we also are like at the start of every season, okay, God, maybe even before, like now we're going to start dreaming up what the fall looks like, what the winter looks like, but we want God to lead us. And sometimes he does give more because like there's opportunities for us that we want to be able to be faithful with, like having Dan and Jen, having you guys come out, having a couple new students at our camp this week who started a relationship with Jesus. Like if we didn't say yes to doing these camps, then God would have used someone else, and that's great. But we said yes, and we want to do it. And tired or not, like he gets the glory, and it's just been an amazing, amazing run, despite the things you don't expect to happen, like things breaking or whatever. It's been an amazing summer. So
And it has. And there's, I think as well for Dan and Jen, when you guys are it is a bit of a season also with everything going wrong. Like when I say everything, like things in the house breaking, like literally last night, like again, not making this up. We're meeting with the missions team and we're kind of catching on what's going on from a lot of things going on. And Legend had just ended his shower, and then he comes to me afterwards. Dad, the shower won't shut off.
Oh no.
And the nozzle or the shut off deal broke, and so the water just won't stop coming out. And for whatever reason, there's no off to the shower. Like I can't shut the water off. I have to shut off the whole water to the house.
Oh man.
And so then as the shower's coming down, I'm trying to mess with the handle. I break the handle off just to get in there with pliers and spent, I don't know, it felt like hours trying to just get it to where I could get the water to stop. I mean, I can't make this stuff up.
Man.
I mean, you go in there, you'll see the wrench that's holding the off on the water right now. If you touch it, water will come out of the faucet again. Don't touch it. But it is a bit of that as well. I do think in those stories, like, we talk about being healthy mentally and physically and things of that nature. When the enemy sends trouble your way, you got to be able to weather. You got to keep going. And I think as much as we preach that, we're also trying to live that at the same time. That we fight that discouragement, like, because camp was here on our property. It'd be easy to go, no, it's all falling apart, no way. Or it's like, God will be faithful to show up. And he did. He showed up with people, right, to help do the camp. And it's been really cool. Thank you so much, guys, coming up. And just to hear that you guys see, and lots going. The pace is wild at times. But I do think we don't notice it as much because that's who we are. I think those people that jump in are like, it's like, if you went on a run with me, you'd try to catch up. But I worked my way to that pace. I didn't start there. And I think for us as the staff, we didn't start there. Does that make sense? And I think what makes camp, for those like what's Dan and them talking, what's harder, the mission trip or camp, I think what makes camp, like especially the way we do the high school, middle school camp, we fatigue the mind.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is when you're given these, we give a lot of, we're trying to teach students that it's okay to respectfully ask questions to anybody, because here's what's happening with middle school and high schoolers. They're asking questions disrespectfully most of the time to their parents. And it's like, man, if you just back up and respect your parents enough to go, hey, can I have 5 more minutes on my video game because I want to finish this level, instead of, you always tell me I can't. It would be better if, right? It's like, no, if you could respectfully talk and still honor the decision. If it's no, honor that. So we try to teach that. And so you're trying to open up creativity and think past the first idea. And then as leaders, you're trying to stay ahead of them. And yeah, I think that's the piece of this that makes it different than the mission trip. Because mission trip, you just said, hey, as Jen can relate to, there's a whole stadium of weeds. Go pull. You're like, okay. And then you're just pulling weeds. You don't have to think.
Right.
Which is a totally different kind of grit.
Sure.
Whereas this, it's like, we have to think about everything. The safety, because the church owns it. We don't have an outside organization doing it. And so it is a bit different on that side of things.
Yeah, there was never a dull moment.
No. Never. And I mean, maybe it's me, so don't get too close to me. But Dwayne, you've been around as well, and maybe, this isn't playing stuff, but even with Jen and Dan here talking about it, you've been here in winter, you've seen the pace that we run and all those different things. One, to hear them say, never a dull moment, a lot going on. Is that surprising to you? What are your thoughts as you lived here for a season and you watch from afar now? For those wondering, is it real? What we talk about online and trying to love people and what does love, is it real or is it just us talking? Do you agree with what they're saying? You got more to add? What's your thoughts?
I have several thoughts. I think, camp is always so much more like draining, because you realize, okay, hey, it's not just like, I'm an introvert. I know Jen's an introvert as well, to where if we're just picking like grass up, like it's physically taxing on the back, but at the same time, I'm not around a lot of people. I can talk to, somebody one-on-one. But with camp, like, you've got to be on, because you are investing, everything into the next generation. So camp is going to be, always hands down. Like, I sleep very well on camp week. As far as the pace, I think if anyone knows Scott and Lily, knows our staff. They know that, that's like it. It's not surprising the pace, because they go all the time, just because like that's their heart. That's we have a finite time here on the earth, and they want to take advantage of every opportunity possible just to pour into the next generation, to love on people. That's who they are. As far as meeting me in person, like I think like I don't talk as much as I do on this.
Yeah, I'll second that one.
Yeah. So for me, like, this is meeting me in real life compared to watching me. Like, it is going to be different, but like meeting Scott, meeting Lily in real life compared to watching them, like that's who they are. Just very, very generous, very high energy, very like. I walk away every Sunday like I want to be a better person. I want to take advantage of all the opportunities. Like you guys make me want to be a better person, and it's like that. Whether it's through Facebook, through YouTube, whatever. In real life, like it's that. So yeah, that's
I agree.
That's my takeaways.
You guys are very kind, and again, we want to. I just, the community is awesome around here. Like, and when I say that, I'm pointing to Dan and Jen. They make the community. Those online make the community. Where we just really want to be involved in people's lives as much as we can, helping people. We say it like this: partner with people to unlock their God-given greatness, and that's what this week of camp was like. That's where it was cool to have Dan right next to me and him get to see the thought process through some of the things. I was laying in bed this morning at 5, just going through the week and stuff, and the story that just kept playing back in my mind for whatever reason this morning was, at one point we're letting the students the objective was they had to carry that huge raft thing through the trail system around here, which is very narrow, but they would barely make it, and they had to transfer water from the lake up, and at the end, after 2 laps, whoever had the most weight of water won. And we always let them think out the box, and they could ask questions, and I would give yes, no, or I already said that, so I'm not going to answer it. And they hate that answer because that means they missed what I said. Now they have a 50-50 chance of getting it right. So the Navy SEALs come and go, hey, can we put a person on top of the raft and carry him through the trails? And they had to keep the raft above their head and their shoulders locked and all these things. And I had already practiced it, and I already knew it was brutal enough with nothing on top of it. And I had Amy on one side and Dan on the other, and I'm about to answer, and I don't remember who spoke first, if it was you or Amy.
We could just see the safety concerns coming to mind, but Scott's like, I kind of want to see if this can happen.
Yeah, I said I hear the two of them, so I recognized. I spoke to both of them that they have both said this is no go. It seems curious, and I was like, let's see if they can figure it out. Let's see if they have a solution, and we would be right there and be able to shut it down. And it was like, maybe they'll figure it out. We didn't want any child going to the hospital. No one got hurt outside of little scratches and stuff throughout the camp. But it was like, let's figure it out. And I just thought that was the fun bit of the team, was we would all share opinions, and then somebody had to still make a decision, or we'd be the Navy SEALs where we all just talk and no one makes a decision. But we would all talk.
Yeah.
And then it was like I had the weight on my shoulders, right? Of like, no, let's see what happens. And if somebody gets hurt, I don't think Dan or Amy are gonna go, I told you that was gonna happen. But it was fun to have that collaboration, and that you just were right there. Now, that seems very risky, and it would have been, but after one lap, I think your team realized that's heavier than.
Yeah, we didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good. Okay, we talked a heap today on all those things because we have the special guests in here, part of the church family. What a cool opportunity. If you would have told me in 2020 you'd be sitting here, I probably would have said yeah, sure, at some point but it was just cool to have you guys here. Thank you for your effort this week, and Those Dan and Jen literally for the space where the new office and studio is going, they were. If you don't know what the word tamping is, you have to pack down the gravel, and they did that one in the morning. I was like, well, camp's starting. Good luck with that.
Yep.
And they came over and go, it's done. And then the trailer was delivered, the teeny office was delivered hours later. So thank you guys. It's cool for you to see where we are and where we're going. So when we get in there, you're like, I was there at the beginning of it all.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So
I gotta say real quick, just to back up what Dwayne was saying, is just to echo, the whole time, seeing you guys digitally, it's like, does Scott just like drink 5 Red Bulls and then get on camera? No, he literally has this energy 24 hours a day, but the love that just comes out has been awesome. Just to see that,
wow.
Yes, I gotta give you that compliment.
Thank you. Good. I mean, you wonder. I think, one of my concerns, honestly, Dan, I was praying after we worked on the foundation for the shed Thursday night, was it? Into Friday morning, right?
Yeah.
And so we were all up until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock kind of deal. And I was like, man, I'm going to be tired. And I don't want to mess up. I don't want to lose my cool, right? I want to still do what love requires. I want to be sharp for the kids, and that was my prayer. God, may the fruit of the Spirit keep shining through, because this isn't the right answer, though it is, but it's just my heart is I always want the fruit of the Spirit to come out. And not for me to shine, right? Or that energy is not me. It's really just a passion to make Jesus be known.
Yep.
And that when I'm weak, he is strong. At the end of the day, when all the things you're speaking about, the craziness going on and all those things, that's honestly God through me.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's it. As cheesy as that can sound, and I don't, but I can't sit there and go, no, it's me. I'm the awesome. It's not. It's like Friday, I was weak. I was tired. This week we have a mission team in from Texas. I'm nervous. Like, I'm tired. Yeah, I am tired, and it's just like, no, we got one more week, and we gotta do right by this missions trip. And I don't want to get frustrated with them. And you could see as the temperatures literally get hotter here this week, and you're in a little shed that's going to be very hot.
Ooh, yeah.
And, I just prepare my heart of like, man, what if somebody drills the wrong hole or comes out the side of the thing instead of through Joyce, all these things. And it's like, Jesus, give me patience, supernatural patience, show up through me. And so, Dan, very kind of you to say, and I'm not trying to be cheesy about it, but it's really... It's funny, it takes a lifetime to build a reputation, but one time to just blow it to smithereens.
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I don't want to do that. I want Jesus to be known. I think Chris Tomlin wrote a song, Famous One. Is that what it is? Is that right? And it's all about making Jesus famous.
Torn Wells.
Oh, no. Is it?
What you're famous for. What you're famous for.
Yes, but that's not the song I'm talking about.
Okay.
But that sounds great, too. No, I don't know. I'll find it. Nonetheless, we're going to skip the video because we're going to go right into the conversation because time's getting away from us. But we are in Matthew chapter 5, which is the Sermon on the Mount. This is Jesus' first public teaching to everybody that was sitting on the side of the hill. Hence why it's called Sermon on the Mount. If you want more details of that, you can go back to last week's podcast on this YouTube channel, and you can get to it where we're talking about it. It's a great setup to the Sermon on the Mount, and so I want everybody to go back there and read it. Matthew chapter 5. We're picking up somewhere in verse 8, but we're going to get there in a way because I want to give a little bit of history so we can understand some perspective here, because I think we just sit here and go, oh yeah, Jesus stuff gets talked about today, and that's God's plan, and it's always happened some magical, mystical, spiritual way. Jesus' story just has continued to be told. And it's not so much the reality of that. It is not some made-up story. This is true life story that we can read through Scripture, and sometimes it's healthy to read other history books, what's happening during the time period, because then you can kind of put it all together. So like 64 AD, This is 64 years after Jesus' birth, okay? So 64 years. You tracking, Lil? You're looking around.
You said AD. So after death?
Yeah, we got beef. Oh, yeah, AD. After death? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
64. Thank you. Sleep deprived. There is a man named Nero. Do you know that name?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Know anything about
I
him?
went to school.
Who was he?
He was an emperor.
For? Wow.
Egypt.
Oh, I was impressed with the first two things you said there.
I don't know.
Rome.
Rome.
And he's famous for 64 AD through 65 AD, where he... Why are you chuckling?
Are you good?
Yeah, I was just trying to get my hair out of my eye. He was famous
Nero.
for killing Christians.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he did not like Christians. He's the first one to label us Christians. It was a derogatory term for people that were little Christs running around. And so his mission was to make Christians a spectacle. So he came up with the idea of putting Christians inside coliseums and bringing in lions and bears and seeing what they could do. And that's what he was on a quest to wipe out little Christs all over the place. So he burns down the city. Like, again, you can check this out in Rome's history. He burns down the entire city of Rome and blames it on the Christians so that the city and the people around would be angry at Christians and now get on mission to kill them. Think about that. So think about, for a moment, that's the life you've been brought up in 64, 65 AD. And could you imagine if we went, this is imagination, so if you miss this part and you hear the next part, you're going to think this is weird stuff here. But imagine that the DeLorean from Back to the Future is real, and we could go back to this time, and you talk to one of these Christians and say, hey, no. In about, 300 years from now, there's going to be more crosses in that city than any other city in the world. That the first cathedral would be built and it would be amazing and be dedicated to Peter. What do you think they would think if you were telling them that's going to happen, Dan?
Mind-blowing. Like, no way.
Right.
They probably wouldn't believe you.
Yeah.
Or us.
So here's the question. Because that's the truth. 300 years later, at that time period, Rome had more crosses, like not crosses that represented death, but represented Christ. More crosses. I still think today Rome has more crosses than any other city. And this is the city that was known for doing a hunt for all Christians. But why? Why did it change? What was the changing thing in a city that was so on a quest to wipe out Christianity turns to be so impacted by it? What do you think happened? And it's no there. There's not a. It's a very simple. It's not a complicated answer. Now Jen's looking at me. I can see her in her eyes. She's like, "Okay, you get put on the spot a little bit more."
Yeah. I feel like I'm going complicated in my head.
Yeah, because like they don't have a list of my questions at all.
No.
And so it is literally what I just, so you're like out of thin air, you're asking me what would be the one thing. But tie it back to Jesus and all the things we know about Jesus. And it's so simple, but we just overlook it because it's so simple.
I just think that, to the outside world or to the people that aren't Christians, the cross may look like death. But to us, it's life. So that representation, I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Okay, I like that. Well, how would you explain it to, this is 64 years after Jesus' death. Here we go. We're going to tell them in about 300 years, this city's going to make a big old turn. And they're going to say, how did that happen? How would you tell them? Well, you know history, so how did it happen?
Well, Jesus did what he said he was going to do. And then
Which they knew of.
They knew of. They knew that it happened. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they knew because
So
they're Christ followers.
There were people that followed in his footsteps and did the same. Not
That's
the
close.
same
That's
thing.
close.
Not the same thing.
No, that's close. I'll give it to you. How about Dwayne? You want to take a shot at this? Everybody's close. Like, I'm not going to blow you away. This is not some new theological thing here, everybody. It's going to be like, oh, yeah, duh. Like, why are you spending so much time on it? Because it does matter. Dwayne, you got a thought?
Yeah, I think as Christians, we know that God loves everyone, that everyone matters. And I think that Christians there, hey, everyone matters, and we're going to be faithful to God. And it just took, I think, like, it was an emperor. I forget what the emperor's name was that became a Christian. And that's kind of what led to all of that and the truth coming out. So is that being faithful with that one.
Okay, these are all good. Yes, I agree. The simple way of me saying it, and it's because a group of men and women lived out the message of Jesus.
Yeah.
They didn't call themselves Christians; they lived it out. They took the Sermon on the Mount and they applied it, and it made them different. Therefore, people looked at what they did and was wowed by it, and it's like, I want to know more about Jesus, and that surpassed all tyranny of all governments trying to wipe out this message. Think about other religions that other emperors and other rulers and kings have they wiped out in their own power.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't worth dying for. It wasn't worth fighting for, because the reality of it was there's not enough facts to make it really feel like it's worth my life. But here you have a group of men and women that lived out like all the way. Some of them are martyrs, gave their life for the teachings of Jesus. They embraced the teachings Jesus said would change the world.
I think too, a lot of those emperors and stuff, they may have had their foundations built on lies. And so are you really prepared to die for a lie?
Exactly. No, and then that's the thing. When life's on the line, right, and you know it's a lie, I'm out. I know it's real. No, I'll dig my heels in a little bit.
Yep.
And so here's the message. Like, this is Jesus' first message. That, like, literally, if you're brand new to Jesus or wondering what does it look like to be a follower of Jesus, this is the application. We're going to buzz by it because we spent a great deal of time. But this was the Sermon on the Mount, where it starts. Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. We're going to start. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I mean, you just got to laugh like you're sitting in the crowd expecting this guy is the next big thing in the Jewish story, and they're thinking, you're starting with poor in spirit. Okay, let's get to that. And then he starts, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who are hungry and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted prophets who were before you. Okay, think about that. That's his opening speech. I'm sure he pauses there because we break it all down to make it understandable, right? And we spent a whole 45 minutes on it last week. And so Jesus says all those things. What do you think the crowd, hearing that, this is how he's going to start a revolution, going to change the world, what do you think goes through their mind sitting in the crowd, Dan?
Oof. Like, what is this guy talking about?
Right?
This goes against everything I feel like I should know. Like, come on.
Yeah, like, right. Because human nature is might makes right. If I'm stronger, I just squash you and I take your kingdom. I just take it from you. We still see that today. I mean, you see it in like with my 8 kids. Whoever's stronger in the moment, whatever they have the leverage, it's not muscles all the time, but it's whatever you have that makes you the strong one in the scenario. They drive the direction of the outcome because they can be selfish and dictate how it's going. What do you think, Lil? What did you're sitting in there?
I think that it's important to remember that the people that were living at the time only knew of one concept of religious law, and you can find all of that in the first half of your Bible. And so it's interesting to read that Jesus is saying to the crowd that you're blessed when people try to come at you to discredit me as Jesus. And I even think that he's saying you might also be tempted to to think that, what I'm saying is a lie. And so I just think it's interesting that he's encouraging them that there's going to be other people, but even they themselves are probably going to be lined up with a choice. Is this real? Do I believe in this? And then looking back on your question before, once it became real, really real after Jesus died and rose from the grave, and then people really started to live it out, those people that were probably there for the Sermon on the Mount were probably like, this was legit, because it's hard to know when there's truth behind people that are confident in what they say. And yeah, I just think it's really interesting to think about.
I think for what you're saying there, Lil, it kind of makes it full circle what we were just talking about, like as you guys shared about your experience here, that, oh no, they're genuine. What we have seen and experienced, we see firsthand. They are what they say they are. And I think when you have the thousands of people listening to Jesus, they're probably scratching their head like, maybe he'll do a miracle or something, because I don't think this is going very well, right? Like, they're probably going, wait, so you're saying I got to be poor, sad, meek, righteous, merciful, pure, peaceful, persecuted, insulted people waiting for a reward in heaven. That's what you're after. Right, okay. Let's do a miracle here. But when Jesus dies and comes back to life, then all of a sudden it's like going back to the Sermon on the Mount. It's like, oh.
Maybe this guy was right.
Maybe he was right. Maybe he had something to be said. And so we go to Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, sorry. And so after he says all of those Beatitudes, they call them. If you haven't gone to the church, you might hear somebody say the Beatitudes. Those are the Beatitudes. He shifts a little bit, but not really. He's trying to now put it a little bow on what he just said. He goes, you, pointing to the crowd, you and me that call ourselves followers of Jesus, you are the salt of the earth. That's it. I mean, and you just got to pause there. You are the salt of the earth. I just think that's like, okay, what do you say? Like, we think very different in our culture, especially in Minnesota. We think of salt probably different than even people in Tampa think of salt. You probably just think about making flavor.
Yes.
We think about
preservation. Or
yeah. Mm-hmm. We think of salt saves our lives on the street because they put it down to melt snow and ice. And it's all the same thing, but it makes, in our culture, it makes things tasty.
Think about this, the ocean. I mean, it's a simple concept. It's salt water. Mm-hmm. But think about every living organism in the ocean would not survive if it were in fresh water. And so that, I think that's what Jesus is trying to say, that if we're the salt of the earth, we're preserving God's word, and it's actually bringing life to the world, like the ocean brings life to its inhabitants because it's salty. I mean, think about it.
Yeah, I
think the same thing.
I think at the end of the day, and Dan, you alluded to it, in their day, they only used salt for one thing, and that was primarily to preserve their meat. They didn't, and this would be so great for everyone to do. Go look how they did it. You would never salt any meat. It's too salty already. And so you're not going to flavor your meat with salt because you use preservatives on it. And when they do it, we're not talking about, seriously, you're all on some device. You should Google preserved meat from salt. It is covered in salt. Like a layer of salt is around the piece of meat. Like you were going to barbecue it and put brisket and have this bark around your meat. That's what they do with it. So it has to permeate the entire piece of meat so it preserves it. Have you ever seen this, Dwayne? Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever Googled this?
Yeah.
Am I doing an okay job of explaining what it looks like? Like, it's just a ton of salt on the outside.
Yeah. Like, I don't even think that does it justice, because like once you actually go and look at the video or look at the pictures, it's like, okay, there's my definition of a ton of salt, but like that's just like multiplied.
Yeah, it's worth checking out.
It says here 1.5 cups per pound of meat.
Of salt.
1.5 cups of salt
for each pound. Like
that's That's like almost this whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. So think about that. Go get
That's so
get 4
per pound.
So it's 4 quarter pounders.
Huh.
So that's not that much meat. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're gonna put a cup and a half on that thing. Woo-wee. That's a lot of salt.
It's a lot of salt.
But here's the deal: if you don't put the preservatives on it, the meat rots and it begins to break down. And Jesus looks at you and me and says, "You are the salt of the earth." If you don't act like a preservative in Jesus' principles, culture will rot and things will begin to break down. And we watch that all over the place in cultures, not just the United States, but all over the world, where Jesus' preservatives are not being taught or held onto or lathered over different things. Things begin to rot and fall apart.
Yeah.
And Jesus says, hey, if you're going to be with me, our job is not to be judges. We're to preserve culture. We are to preserve not the United States way of living, but Jesus' way. So and the reason why I asked the question about those Christians in 65 AD, 64 AD, what would would be baffled. How does it get to where 300 years later those crosses are everywhere? It's because people became the salt of the earth. They took what they heard just a second ago. Okay, wait. I'm to preserve these things. I'm supposed to preserve what are human rights, what is justice, and how do I pass that down over the years? How do I pass down Jesus' words? The reason we're even talking about the Sermon on the Mount is because we want to get Jesus' words inside us so we know how to behave.
Yeah.
So that we know when we're tired, where do we got to go? How do I default when I'm upset at my kids or my wife or my spouse or how am I supposed to behave? And those are when you come back to Jesus' principles, because he says you are the salt of the earth. So my question to you right now for all of us listening or in this, are we preserving it? Or are we watching things rot? Like where you work, you're in meetings and you can go, boy, there's an absence of Jesus' principles. But are you speaking up? You know, it was wild in camp, and I love camp for these things because it's such a social experiment. A lot of times you get to see socially how people behave. The SEALs, they became a committee most of the time, and they got nothing done because everyone had to share. Lily could speak more on it, but as Dan and I are watching it, they're just all talking, and no one's actually saying, yeah, let's go do this. And I don't remember what event it was, but I asked at the end of every event, they were supposed to go get their flag and put it up. And at one point, it's like the third competition, and they begin to go, are we supposed to put our flag up or not? Remember that debate that they had? They wouldn't move. They were like, do we put our flag up or is it over? And Dan and I and Amy are just looking at them. We know the answer, but we're trying to see if they'll figure it out. So they're tethered together. Remember, we're carabined them together, so they can't just take off. And so it forces them to stay in it, right? Because I think what would have happened, and Jen at that point, they would have split.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have had half the team over here and half the team over here. And so they ended up making a decision. And under the tent, I asked who wanted to go where. And I remember looking at it, and it was majority wanted to do one thing, and the minority wanted. Remember that? It was like 3 of you wanted to do what was the right thing, and the majority wanted to do the wrong thing. And what happened was, I believe in that case, the minority was right. They went and got their flag and they put it up. However, their debate made them lose because they were second.
Yeah.
And it took 3 kids talking about it, but holding their ground of I know what's right in this case to move. It's not about majority. It's about speaking up when you see, no, I know this is right. And the only way we as followers of Jesus can know what's right is by knowing what Jesus is saying, is studying the Bible, is knowing it. No, I know that's what Jesus said. Not, my grandma said it's in the Bible somewhere. Because that's the danger. It's in the Bible somewhere. Is it? Like, do you know that for sure? Because if you don't know it's for sure, don't say that because you could be quoting it wrong. Like, people always tell me this. Not always, but a lot of times, different circumstances in my life. Oh, God will never give you more than you can handle. That's a lie.
Oh, yeah, he will.
Yeah.
He'll give you more than you can handle just so you can rely on him.
Yeah. But people quote, because that is a scripture. God will not give you any more than you can handle.
Yeah.
But then it says, and he'll provide a way out in its temptation. It's like, it's sin. It's not life events. But if that's what somebody says, God will never give you any more than a handle, you know how guilty somebody feels when you quote that out of context? Because it's like, what kind of Christian am I if I'm at this? It's like, no, I can't handle this right now. I'm overwhelmed. Like, I'm paralyzed by the situation. So when somebody quotes a scripture that's in there but out of context and not fully, you can really make someone feel wrong, and it's not the truth. And so you got to make sure you know the context, you know the whole thing, because that, again, it's just, those are dangerous things. We've done a series, Jesus didn't say that. Jesus never said he wouldn't give you more than you can handle. The whole story, to make sure you all understand again, he says, I will not give you more than you can handle when it comes to temptation, and I will provide a way out. Lily, can you look that up so we can read it all to them? And they can.
1 Corinthians 10, I want to say.
So as she's looking that up, you're the salt of the earth. You and I are the salt of the earth. Are you going to be salty? Are you going to be salty? Not salty in like the negative way of like I'm salty because of circumstances, but are you going to be salty in preserving culture? That will you be the one seeing needs, meeting needs? I wrote this question. I'm full of questions today, obviously. Why do we get excited when we see someone who sees needs and meet needs, or when the less gets blessed by someone? Why do we get excited when we see someone see needs and meet needs, or when the less gets blessed by someone? I'm going to answer my own question because just for time, because it's pointing to Jesus. We're serving people. We're going out of the way and stopping whatever we're doing to help someone. Those are the ways we are preserving Jesus' principles, when we are seeing needs, meeting needs, when we do what does love require us to do. Jesus goes on in Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. A town built or placed on a hill cannot be hidden. The word built translates into place. Think about this one. We don't think about it very much because cities aren't just being built up anymore. They're just kind of there, right? But they've all been placed. There's not cities in the middle of nowhere that are thriving. Like when I say cities thriving, like have Walmarts and that's probably not even the way you need to talk about thriving, but cities that people are moving to, right? Like obviously there's gatherings of people and we call those towns or villages where they're out in the middle of nowhere and it's a group of people, but those are not cities. Cities are strategically placed. They have a water source. They have an easy way in and out. Airports today. But it was strategic. And so I like when Jesus says, you are the light of the world. He's just coming back and going, listen, it's dark. You're to be shining the light. And then he goes, a town built or placed on a hill cannot be hidden. He's pointing to the fact that we are strategically placed where we are. In our house, in our job, this week at camp, or next week in missions team. Strategic. God is strategic in what he's doing when we listen to, okay, for you guys, I should get a plane ticket and get Parker to camp, and then we'll go help. It was strategic on his part. We just feel like we're just like making all these decisions, which we are, but God's strategically dropping things in our lives, which then impacts other people's lives. Like, just from my point of view, you guys coming into town, one, to have Parker here, what a cool opportunity to be able to pour into your son. Thank you for the privilege to do that this week, and all the leaders that got to do that. And then to have you guys on our property, seeing the church do the things, but then you guys helping us move the ball down the field. It would have been a very different week without your hands and feet here. And it cost you something. You had to take work off to get here. But the thing you look around is, whoa, we're watching people do what Jesus is talking about. See needs, meet needs, and together trying to be most like Jesus. Are we all perfect? Nope, we've got our problems. We cross lines. We have to apologize. But we are strategically placed like a town is. So he goes on, neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. I think a part where we kind of go, we miss, or so that they may see your good deeds. Think about that. We're always trying to hide those things. Now I get it because pride creeps in and it can be selfish, and people they make villains out of good people all the time. Oh, look at you. You want all the glory. But somewhere in this, there's attention to be managed because Jesus says they may see your good deeds and glorify the Father in heaven. That they see Jesus through what you do, the needs we meet. But if we just keep it to ourselves, then they don't see it. The wow factor is when the light is lighting the darkness, or the salt is preserving, or the town on the hill, strategically placed. When those things are doing their job, people are wowed. So why do you think it is a struggle, Dwayne, I'll come to you, for us to have and I'm not talking about posting on Instagram. I think it's probably weird because no one sees the heart of it. But like if we give resources to somebody, don't tell anybody I did that. I want it to be anonymous. It's like, wait, then the world doesn't get to see the deed. Why is it such a struggle, Dwayne?
I mean, I know for me, it is a struggle because I don't want the attention on me. Like I would rather it be like, hey, God showed up and showed out, and I don't want to put myself, elevate myself in any way. So for me, it's kind of a way of kind of checking, going back to verse 8, blessed are the pure in heart. It's like, okay, am I doing this to get glory? Ooh, how good of a God Dwayne is. It's like, no, I don't want that. So I know for me, a lot of times it's a struggle just because I want to make sure that I am pure in heart and I'm not doing it for the attention. And I hope that answers the question. Like my mind, like I'm kind of going, like I was in a rabbit hole. So yeah.
Well, we'll come back to that rabbit hole here because I think we short circuit what Jesus wants to do when we see needs when we don't share. Like I want to poke the bear a little bit in that, because that is what you said is, yeah, we don't want pride. We don't want to look at me kind of deal. There's a tension to be managed in this, but the more quiet we are on it, the less people see our deeds. I wrote it like this for me in the way I was processing. They see your deeds, then they see Jesus. Jesus wants our deeds so big that people would know there's no way they just did that for themselves. That it's like, wait, you gave how much money to them? That's not healthy. Why would you do that to yourself? Because, right, like, I get it, unless $5 is a stretch for somebody, right? But it's like, no, we just gave $500 to a family because they're having a rough go. You did what? Why would you do that? Don't you? You're doing something. Don't you need the $5? Well, yeah, I do, but I felt God asked me to do that. I think when I felt God asked me, we're being the moon and we're reflecting Jesus. But when we'd say, oh, I just felt impressed to do that. Well, then it is about us. But when we say, no, I feel God asked me to do that, we've just reflected Jesus principles. So if and please, anybody, share your thoughts on this, because I'm not trying to, where everybody changes and all of a sudden it's like, look what I did, because there's a tension to be managed in this. But I think when Jesus says, in the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good deeds. If they're not seeing your good deeds, then how would they glorify Jesus?
Yeah, it's true.
Right? Like, so we've got to tell the Jesus story, not just I found Jesus in I have divine hope. That is part of it. But there's a part of being a follower of Jesus where we are to have some deeds in this, some of the things we're doing. So what are the deeds that would be worth telling other people that you did in the name of Jesus? I'm not looking for people to say that right now. That's not. But what are you doing in a weekly basis that you would go, I need people to know I did that because Jesus asked me to do that?
Well, I think also there are people that we come across that are just living their lives in such a way that everything they do is just the Holy Spirit. You see it in them. We went to go get my windshield wipers replaced before we came out here, and when Dan walked in and he's talking to this guy, it was without question, and so Dan says to him, "I bet you're a Christ follower,"
Yeah, you can just see. I walk in the auto parts store 5 seconds, and you can just see the way somebody was acting. You can just see it exuding from them, and I think that's what we all want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that. It's like you walk in and people can just go something different
Yeah,
about
you're different.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy that dropped off the teeny office, he goes, this is through Holly, not through me. I got a second hand, but he pulls in and he's like, "What do you guys got going on here? There's so much energy on this property." And she's like, "Oh, we're doing a camp." And he's like for what? And he just started asking. He's like, "Oh man, I knew this was where Jesus was." And he starts talking about what he was praying about this morning, what church he goes to, and we had this full-on conversation about how just. Then when I showed up, we talked about the mission trips he's been on and things of that nature. And it was just, he's like, I could tell this was different. This is a way different stop than anybody else's. And one is because you have heaps of people running around here smiling, carabined to each other. Who does that? But it is that our deeds aren't just the big, and I like how you said that, Jen. It's not about, I gave my house away to a homeless person. Those are fine stories, but just the everyday joy is pretty big, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
For real. But it's something, I wrote, salt always preserves and light always shows the way. Is that you? And that's Jesus asking that all of us. Are you continuing to push the story of Jesus in the way you live, in the simple things or the big things? Dwayne, what was the rabbit hole that you were chasing in your mind? Do you remember?
Well, I do. So, this is Jesus on the mountainside. He's talking to the Jewish people. So Jewish people at that time, they were looking for the Messiah to relieve them, to deliver them from the control of the Romans. Someone that's going to step up and lead them like David led them out from under control, and they would be a great nation again. So it kind of having that perspective, and then kind of going in through it the meek and the peacekeepers. I imagine just them going there ready to take up arms, ready to. And there's several times throughout Jesus' life that the people were trying to get him to step up and to take and become the Messiah that they were expecting, to overthrow Rome. But yet, that wasn't God's plan. So he's going through and saying this. So I imagine just them being really let down and oh wait, this is very different than what I was expecting from this great guy. And then to have the salt and light, again, this is the God's people. These are the Jewish people, and it's okay, it's kind of a puffing up of hey, yeah, we are called. We are God's chosen people. We are called to be different, and just about how the world is a much better place with them in there, and it's okay, hey, yeah, this is good. And then what we're gonna get into next week is it's okay, well, I could just see the emotions of the Jewish people just kind of being very up and down and just kind of on the edge of the seat. So I never really thought about that before. So I was kind of looking ahead and going back, and it's okay, from a Jewish perspective, because we read
that's
this.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah, we read this from a Christian perspective, and it's it's crazy how God's word can speak to us today, and it hits us where we are. It still challenges us, but yet, he was speaking to people, 2,000 years ago, and it was still, speaking to them, and it was still challenging them. So it's just kind of just the words of God and the power of God that transcend time and to speak to people regardless of throughout culture, like these truths hold up. So it was kind of.
I think it's interesting to think about the crowd too, because even like those who weren't Jewish that were there, they knew that the Jewish people were the chosen people. And so can you imagine being like a Gentile or someone who's not Jewish listening to this Jesus saying, you are the salt of the earth, and them going, me or them? Like, me or the chosen people? Because that's probably what they've been used to all their lives. And it's just so cool. And if you don't understand all of this, that's okay. We'll spend enough time to talk on it as the weekends go, but it's so cool how Jesus flipped the script. He calls it, I am doing a new thing. I didn't come, we'll read actually really soon in the coming weeks if we continue this, that he didn't come to abolish what they knew. He came to fulfill it for everyone. And it's just so cool to think about the crowd. You could do a whole series just on the crowd listening to the Sermon on the Mount, and think about how life-changing it was for all of them, not just a select few.
Yeah, I when you are reading this again as a Jewish man or woman, you're going, wait. I lived under the principle it was an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Right. Like my deeds were, I do to you what you did to me. And he's trying to say, no, listen, your deeds are going to be changing. I need you to have a heart change, a lifestyle change. It's no longer about repaying someone for what they did. It's what you do will point to me. Mm-hmm. And so it's very fun to just sit there and contemplate on this in Jesus' words and ask ourselves, am I the salt? Do I, this fits into, I think, a really cool theme for us. Will there be people standing behind you that you led to Christ? And that can be through your mouth. It can be through your deeds. It can be through your just the way you've behaved. But we need to be going, no, I'm spreading the gospel, the good news for the next generation. The next generation will know who Jesus is and how to be a follower of Jesus because I'm preserving it. That's the question to all of us. That's not coming from me. I'm just restating what Jesus has been saying. And I think there's pressure. We should feel something to that, right, Dan?
Oh, for sure. And I look back, the mission trip was, 2 months ago? And it's those people like Jamie. Like, it's those guys that stand out, like, oh, this is the real deal, the Scott. Those people in your life that you're going to encounter, and they're going to make that solid impact. I want to be one of those.
Yeah. You want to be one of I want to be one of those because I know what Jesus did for me.
Yeah.
And Dwayne, I remember the name of the song. I wrote it down on paper that I think everyone should go listen to. Is Famous One by Chris Tomlin.
Yeah.
And that's it. He's the famous one. Think about it. Even when somebody uses Jesus' name as part of a swear word, it still turns heads for whatever reason, right? You're like, ooh. Mm-hmm. Or somebody just uses the name Jesus, heads are turned.
Yeah.
Because his name means something.
There's power.
Even in a negative connotation, people still know there's power in that name.
Yeah.
They might not accept, but there's power. His name is famous, and at the end of the day, I want to make him famous, and there is temptation of self all along the way to steal some of the credit, and I know I've failed, that I do take some of the credit. Mm-hmm. Oh, look how talented I am, or whatever it is, and it's like, no, it's I want to be that moon. I want to reflect. So
that's good.
So go into all the world, Jesus says, right? And be salty, be the light, and do some deeds. Outshine, outplay, outdo. Not in a competitive way, but I think, again, throughout this week, trying to get these young people to think past the first ideas, to get them to be out in the world thinking, how am I going to be a follower of Jesus? Mm-hmm. How am I going to do this? How am I going to be bold enough to go against the current? And so it's been a good week. Dan and Jen, it's been an honor, a privilege.
So good to have you
sit here.
Love it.
And oh man, there's gonna be so many more opportunities when you sell everything and move here.
We'll be here.
We'll be here. That's been a joke because that's what Parker keeps saying. Mom and Dad, I have an idea.
Let's go, Parker.
Let's sell everything and move to Minnesota. We're on it with you. We're gonna make you a T-shirt. Parker, you want a T-shirt that says I have an idea. Let's sell everything.
Hear me out.
And then on the back,
Hear me out.
move to Minnesota. You like it? Okay, we're making it happen. Okay. Everybody at home, thanks for watching. Man, for everybody that gives with your resources, Dan and Jen get to see, like, we are lean, right? There's no, I don't think there's, you would look around going, wow, there's a lot of money being wasted, or we're doing something really wild with it or something, right? Not building a big house or anything. We're using it to spread the gospel.
It's like the loaves and fishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
For
the
sure.
God
Loaves and
keeps
fish.
multiplying what has been given, and we do a lot with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even down to the foundation. Like, again, you're not here, and sometimes people get this perception that, churches have money and they do all these. It's like, no, we are trying to be faithful with what you give. We did this foundation for the tiny office, and it was a lot of work, and we got a quote to do somebody else to do the work, and it was like over $10,000. Like, no, I can do that work, and maybe some people will help me, and we can do it for like $1,000. And so that's what we did. We literally shoveled 7 tons of clay in the middle of the night, and then got it done for a fraction of the price, because it's us being faithful, because it's like, no, we want to do a camp, and we want to be able to do these other things to reach people. And so thank you for those that are faithful with what God's asked you to do with your resources, and you give. We're going to be faithful with that to spread the good news and do the good work around here for you, your friends, your family, and those people we don't know. And we make it really easy to give. You can text the number 77977 from your smartphone, and then you'll get a link right back after you use the word unlock. So you got to text the number 77977, write the word unlock, hit send. You'll get a response back, and it'll walk you through how to set up giving or give once. Or you can go to unlockchurch.com/give to give there as well. It's all the same platform where you're giving. What a spectacular week of camp. A couple weeks ago, camp mission trip. We've done a lot as a church for the kingdom. And that's what's so cool.
Amen.
Amen.
A lot for the kingdom. And so, thank you, everybody. We have one upcoming event, which is July 30th.
Next Sunday,
A group ride here, which sadly, Dan, Jen, and Parker
gonna
won't.
miss.
Yeah,
that would
you'll
be
miss.
fun to have you guys play.
I would like that. It'd be pretty fun.
It was fun.
We'll do more, though. But if you're local and you want to come hang out with us, a bunch of us, we eat hamburgers and cook out, and then we ride around a really nice trail system. So thanks for everybody for being with us today. We love you. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Dwayne,
Bye,
thanks for
Dwayne.
hanging with us.
Bye, guys.
Nice haircut.
Bye, Dwayne.
Bye.
Bye.
And Jen, thanks for being with us. We'll see you online next week. Adios. And
Bye,
that dog
everyone.
that barked. Bye, dog.
Bye.
Bye, Lily.